There are nights when the world feels too quiet, yet the mind refuses to follow. It turns and twists, replaying old conversations, predicting future mistakes, dissecting every decision until it becomes something heavy and unmanageable. Overthinking is not just a habit. For many, it feels like a way of life, a constant mental hum that never fades, even in moments that are supposed to be peaceful. To understand overthinking is to understand the human mind's longing for control, its fear of uncertainty, and its strange capacity to create suffering from thought alone. Psychologists often describe overthinking as a form of rumination, repetitive, circular thought patterns that don't lead to solutions. Unlike problem-solving, which moves toward clarity, overthinking loops back on itself. It feels productive, but it rarely is. The more one tries to think their way out, the deeper they fall into the spiral. This behavior often emerges from anxiety, a biological system built to anticipate danger, but in modern life, that system no longer warns us of predators in the wild. Instead, it alerts us to imagined futures, social fears, and the endless what-ifs that accompany human relationships and self-worth. Freud once described the mind as a battlefield of competing forces, the id, ego, and superego, all fighting for dominance. Overthinking can be seen as the ego's desperate attempt to mediate between desire and fear. To make sense of contradictions it can never fully resolve. In this way, overthinking is not merely a flaw, but a symptom of being human, the cost of consciousness. To be aware is to notice patterns, to reflect, to imagine. Yet awareness, when left unchecked, becomes self-consuming.
Attachment theory also sheds light on this phenomenon. Those with anxious attachment styles tend to overthink more frequently, especially in relationships. They monitor every small change in tone, every pause in a text message, searching for signs of rejection or disconnection. Their minds become hypervigilant, scanning for emotional danger, because somewhere in their past, inconsistency taught them that love could disappear without warning. For them, overthinking is not just mental noise, it is a survival strategy. The mind learned that if it stays alert, maybe it can prevent the pain of abandonment. Cognitive psychology adds another layer. Overthinking often stems from what researchers call intolerance of uncertainty. The human brain prefers predictability. When something feels unresolved, it generates cognitive dissonance, a kind of inner tension that demands closure. Overthinkers, unable to tolerate that ambiguity, fill the silence with speculation. They replay conversations to make sense of hidden meanings. They anticipate outcomes to avoid surprise. But ironically, the very effort to control uncertainty becomes the source of distress. Existential psychologists like Viktor Frankl and Rollo May believe that anxiety and overthinking emerge when people lose connection to meaning. When life's purpose becomes unclear, the mind compensates by overanalyzing. It becomes obsessed with trivial details because it cannot face the larger question, why does any of this matter? The emptiness that follows can feel unbearable, so the brain distracts itself with mental noise. Overthinking, in this sense, becomes a defense mechanism against existential fear, the fear of being lost, insignificant, or purposeless.
There's also the neurobiological side. Overthinking has roots in the brain's default mode network. This network is known as the DMN, which is active when one is not focused on a specific task. It's responsible for daydreaming, reflecting, remembering the past, and imagining the future. In people who tend to ruminate, this network shows excessive activity. Their brains are wired for self-referential thought, constantly looping through memories and imagined scenarios.
Meditation and mindfulness work, in part, by quieting this network, allowing the mind to rest in the present moment instead of wandering endlessly between what was and what could be. But despite its pain, overthinking often hides a strange kind of intelligence. People who overthink tend to be introspective, sensitive to nuance, and deeply empathetic. Their thoughts dive beneath the surface where others might skim. They notice contradictions, emotional undercurrents, and patterns invisible to most. The problem arises not from thinking deeply, but from thinking without balance, when reflection turns into fixation and awareness becomes paralysis. In therapy, one approach to healing overthinking is metacognition, learning to observe thoughts rather than participate in them. Instead of asking, "Why can't I stop worrying?" a person learns to notice the worry itself as a mental event, not a truth. They see the thought arise, shift, and dissolve. This shift from identification to observation is subtle but powerful. It transforms the relationship between self and mind. The person begins to realize, "I am not my thoughts. I am the awareness noticing them." Another perspective comes from acceptance and commitment therapy, which teaches that peace is not found in control, but in acceptance. Overthinkers often try to silence or argue with their thoughts. But thought suppression paradoxically strengthens the unwanted thought. ACT invites a gentler approach, letting thoughts exist without judgment, focusing instead on aligned actions and values. The goal is not to stop thinking, but to stop fighting with thinking.
From a social perspective, overthinking thrives in the age of constant information. Technology has turned the human mind into a feedback loop of endless stimulation. Every notification, every opinion, every comparison adds another thread to the mental web. People are bombarded with data faster than they can emotionally process it. The brain, designed for reflection, is now forced into hyper-analysis. Even rest becomes restless. There is also cultural conditioning. Many societies glorify productivity, logic, and self-control. Children are praised for thinking things through and punished for being impulsive. As adults, they equate thinking with safety. To stop thinking feels irresponsible, even dangerous. But the mind is not meant to operate non-stop. It is designed for rhythm, for moments of activity and moments of stillness. When thought never pauses, emotion suffocates and creativity fades. Carl Jung once wrote that thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge. But for the overthinker, the opposite is true. Thinking never stops, and judgment is internalized. Every mistake becomes evidence of failure. Every silence becomes proof of rejection. Jung believed that the mind's shadow, the repressed aspects of the self, fuels overthinking. What cannot be accepted within oneself is projected outward, analyzed, and dissected in others. Healing begins when that projection is withdrawn and the person learns to sit with their own discomfort without trying to rationalize it away. Overthinking often follows trauma as well. When someone has experienced unpredictability, the mind adapts by staying alert, always scanning for signs of threat. Even when danger has passed, the brain continues to operate in high alert, replaying old scenarios to prevent reoccurrence. In this case, overthinking is not a flaw of logic, but an imprint of survival. It deserves compassion, not criticism. Healing trauma often quiets the mind not by silencing thoughts, but by restoring a sense of safety in the body. In quiet moments, the overthinker often feels exhausted, not physically, but mentally drained. Their minds run simulations of what could go wrong, replay conversations to correct imaginary mistakes, and craft scenarios that never happen. Beneath it all lies fear. The fear of losing control, of being misunderstood, of making the wrong choice. But life, by its nature, is uncertain. The attempt to think one's way into safety only reinforces the illusion that certainty is possible.
The path to peace begins with surrender, not to chaos, but to reality as it is. This doesn't mean passivity. It means allowing life to unfold without demanding that every question have an immediate answer. The mind may still wander, but its wandering becomes softer, less punishing. Instead of searching for absolute clarity, one begins to find beauty in ambiguity. Mindfulness practices help cultivate this shift. When attention rests on the breath, the present moment becomes a refuge. The stream of thoughts still flows, but it no longer carries the person away. Over time, this practice rewires the brain's default mode network, reducing the constant chatter and strengthening regions associated with awareness and compassion. The overthinker learns that calm is not the absence of thought. It is the ability to stay centered amidst it. Relationships also play a crucial role. Sharing thoughts with someone who listens without judgment can transform overthinking into understanding. When emotions are named aloud, they lose their grip. The mind's tangled knots begin to unravel in the presence of empathy. Sometimes, what the overthinker needs is not advice, but connection. Someone to remind them that they are safe, even when their mind is loud. Ultimately, the psychology of overthinking is a story about the mind's desire to protect the self. It tries to predict pain before it happens, to solve emotions as if they were puzzles. But emotions are not meant to be solved. They are meant to be felt. The moment one stops trying to analyze every feeling and starts to experience it, something shifts. The heart softens and the mind slowly follows. There will still be nights when thoughts come rushing back, when silence feels impossible. But those moments no longer define the person. They are simply waves on the surface of awareness, passing, shifting, dissolving. Overthinking loses its power when it is met with compassion instead of resistance. In the end, perhaps peace is not found in quieting the mind, but in understanding it. To realize that the mind's endless chatter is only a reflection of its care, its longing to protect, to understand, to make sense of the world. When one sees that clearly, even overthinking becomes a kind of love. Misplaced, misunderstood, but love nonetheless. And maybe the real rest begins not when the mind stops thinking, but when the heart finally whispers back, "It's okay. You don't have to figure it all out right now."